What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. The narrative of the Russian propaganda changed several times since the beginning of this war. And we're not even talking about their narrative in regards to Ukrainians or the West. That's given, right? It started at saving Russians in Donbass region at first, then it was to prevent NATO from expanding. Next thing you know is that historically Russian lands should reunite with the rest of the country. And then suddenly, American biolaboratories with combat mosquitoes are threatening the population of Europe. Russia is here to save you all. We all heard the same old ever-changing narrative and we learned to distinguish it as pure propaganda, so well, no surprise here, it is not even worth our attention anymore. But what some people missed under the radar is that the narrative of the Russian propaganda against their own soldiers has changed several times as well. The heroes of the motherland, professional soldiers at first. Then it was patriotic people who heard the call of duty and wanted to protect their country, family and friends. Next, the soldiers became contract mercenaries, who should do everything possible to protect Russia, since they are being paid millions of rubles. And if something happens to them, well, it is totally their fault. They knew the risks whenever they were signing a military contract after all, right? And ultimately, well, recently it feels like that the Russian propaganda completely turned against their own soldiers, considering them worthless human beings at best, who are lucky to be given the chance to fight in Ukraine, and in case their lives in danger, they should not think twice before self-eliminating themselves. Just like this. The propaganda even gives step-by-step guides and the best methods to do it, which we cannot even discuss here. It is that immoral and inhumane. The most ridiculous part is that all these claims and statements about the bravery and duty come from people sitting in nice, warm telestudios, spreading toxicity and getting paid millions of rubles to do so. Aren't they the ones who promote the principle, which is like lead by example? And yet, they are the ones as far as possible from the actual front lines with zero possibility of doing themselves the biggest favors and becoming the true heroes of Russia as they claim it. To say this is a hypocrisy is to obviously say nothing. So today, let's talk about how the Russian propaganda completely changed their narrative against their own soldiers, thinking that the best thing a Russian man can do is to give his life for the regime of Putin. Let's get back for a minute to the late 1990s, where Russia's state television ultimate boogeyman was the Western culture. Grey-haired politicians promised that imported music would rot our morals by the next Monday morning. Russians can never adopt the lifestyle of Americans with their Big Macs, Coca-Cola and freedom. Definitely not freedom. If people have too much free time, they start thinking about some stupid things, they said.
Chocolate is crunches when it crunches. That's why I love Nestle Crunch. That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
Fast forward to today, and those same channels now host polished military experts, who stare right into the camera lenses and declare, with absolute calm, that the noblest, the best escape from capture is a self-pull trigger or a tight hack with the grenade. And yes, they are talking about supposedly revered Russian soldiers who just yesterday were the heroes of the motherland for them. One notorious propagandist even compared a soldier's ultimate fate with Jesus Christ choosing the cross, because apparently martyrdom in Russia now comes with studio applauses and approving handshakes from the patriots behind the TV scenes. But the show does not end there. There is also Black Widow's segment, a horrible tale of women from Russia obviously, who marry one soldier after another, collecting the death payout money, and then head back to the registry office in the fresh new dresses looking for next eternal, but very quick love.
22-year-old Ruzana Ibragimova is described as a Black Widow, a notorious type of suicide terrorist that emerged in Russia's clashes with Chechen separatists. Police distributed flyers to hotels in Sochi and are asking staff to be on the lookout for her.
People scream about female greed, conveniently ignoring the bigger outrage. A system where a folded flag on top of the coffin is the most reliable pension plan for half of the country. If casket cash beats honest wages, maybe the villain is not the widow hustling to survive, but the war that priced life so cheaply in the first place. That's, by the way, another outrageous topic for one of my next videos, guys, so please subscribe if you don't want to miss it. I promise you it will be pretty emotional. But so yeah, here is the punchline, missing from every propagandistic broadcast. The TV presenters who bless a glorious sacrifice after the show is finished hop inside their German Mercedes-Benz and the night behind the guarded gates of an expensive community constructed by an Italian designer, sip British imported tea, and their own sons study in France, far from artillery sounds south of the front lines. And meanwhile, a boy from forgotten unnamed village goes through hell daily for a paycheck that might vanish in bureaucracy. On screen, death is a glorious culmination of a true patriot's life. And off-screen, it's a mother in a morgue line holding the ragged sleeve of her hands in her hands, which once belonged to her child. And yet the audience, numbed by years of fear and fairy tales, simply yawns, flips the channel, and lets the cycle just continue itself. Late 2022 was the year Russian propaganda stopped flirting with the war and finally proposed. First came the draft decree of September 22, 300,000 names snatched from families' dinners and sent to icy trenches in Ukraine. Until that moment, TV still calls the overdue invasion, special military operation, of course, like a routine plumbing job that simply ran over time. Don't worry, guys, they said, everything goes in accordance with the plan. And yes, there might not be a deadline for this plan, but it is a plan nevertheless, so why are you complaining? But these draft letters force people to start counting bodies because there were just so many. So the propaganda machine decided to rebrand the death itself. Now in 2025, you can almost hear the control room cheer when a star presenter says, "Life is overrated." Easy to say from a studio lined with makeup mirrors and standby medics, right? His sidekick piles on, "A real man knows that the highest joy is dying for his motherland," he says. Somewhere between forced applauses, there is a grieving mother who calls the studio, because her son, cornered on the front, eliminated himself rather than surrender to Kiev as a prisoner. The local priest refused to burial rite because he said that such action is staining the soul. Minutes later, a TV theologian sweeps in waving a pocket Bible, calling this boy Christ-like, and declares him worthy of sainthood. Behold the new trend: draft, crush, bless, and repeat. Family pensions. Well, the fine print says maybe. In the paperwork claims that your son did it himself, the payout can vanish quicker than you can say hero. Only the ones taken by Ukrainians in a well-defined zone of the special military operation, they're the ones to qualify for the payouts. And still, not without dozens problems and roadblocks. But don't worry, if propagandists notice that their ratings go down, another one will arrive tomorrow with much more gory details and even louder round of applause for early grace. Now it's time to move over for airborne legends and Navy tough guys. The new poster boys are the Ahmad soldiers. TikTok military is back, basically. Their spokesman, callsign Aid, swaggers into primetime studio in spotless camouflage uniform and boasts that none of his fighters ever got captured. They keep extra grenades for a final fireworks show, as he almost literally says it. Genevan rules, well, fairy tales for schoolchildren, he laughs. If a comrade surprises himself with a Ukrainian mine or is cornered, he's expected to pull the pin and vanish into nothingness. The hosts and audience nod alike, and Aid remembers a buddy nicknamed Shahid who stepped on an underground device, sensed a propaganda trophy coming, and, well, chose self-destruction activity as a result. Well, he became instant martyr, basically. Now cut the commercial and bring in the next one. Aid also brags that any single Ahmad fighter traded back in a prisoner swap jumps right back into the battle. Never mind that international law forbids redeploying returned POWs. I mean, yeah, law is boring. Ratings, this is the one which is important. No hospital needed, no mental re-evaluation, no interviews, nothing. Straight back to the trenches. Meanwhile, he laughs at ordinary paratroopers who are considered elite only when the cameras need background heroes. Don't forget, it is Ahmad time, baby. Another anchorman, Sergei Karnaukhov, the self-proclaimed prayer warrior, drives the messages even deeper. In Midnight Telegram post, he describes fields glittering with soldiers' bones shining like saints in sunrise light. Once again, that's also exactly his quote. And then he slides effortlessly into explaining self-elimination step-by-step methods, different ones, as though he's just reading a cookbook. If you don't like this method, well, there is another. Want to make it quick? Well, there are at least 3 to choose from. Want to make it beautiful? Here are a couple options I can suggest, he says. Though the main question remains, how did Russian propaganda go from praising their own soldiers to completely neglecting and dehumanizing them? They no longer see them as people, definitely not as heroes. They show them as money-driven, desperate folk who decided to trade their lives for millions of rubles, and those who should have known better all the risks when signing up in the draft office. And I mean, yes, that's exactly who they are, for better or worse for them. But this is something what the Russian opposition can say out loud. For those who are on Putin's payroll, this is the equivalent of the worst crime ever, the discreditation of the Russian army, punishable only by a decade in jail with no possibility of parole, at least decade in jail. Well, yet they still do it, and face, as you would expect, absolutely no consequences. Alright, and now theology for now, let's talk survival, plain and simple. Life is not just a coupon that loses value each time it is scanned. It is the one possession no one can give back once spent. Yet recruiters flash glossy posters, sign here, wipe out your debts, become a millionaire here overnight. The asterisk at the bottom though says, internal contract, no exit clause, funeral benefits subject to creative accounting and similar. No flag, red, blue, striped or starred, deserves you doing those things to yourself to avoid a prison cell. War movies taught us that surrender is shame. But movies end when the credits roll, and these are just actors, after all. Real life keeps going, and a living soldier can hug his child, rebuild his town, testify against abuses, or simply grow old. A dead soldier, on the other hand, is just mentioned once at best during a local official's podium speech, who will most likely even mispronounce his last name. If the big shots honestly think death is the pinnacle of honor, let them walk into a trench first. Spoiler alert, they won't. Who would have thought, right? They need those living bodies to wave cameras at, other bodies to boost advertisement prices for their sponsors, and hollow myths to protect their own pension plans. Most of you guys watching are not from Russia, I know it, but maybe some of you have Russian friends. In that case, I want you to tell them, if a draft notice lands in their mailbox, please remember, you still have choices. A medical exemption may feel like cheating, but it is actually self-rescue. A one-way bus ticket across the entire country or across the border might empty your savings, but it is still cheaper than a coffin. And if you're already at the front, the toughest act may be just simply dropping your rifle, raising a white flag, and leaving another day to see the sunrise. Propaganda will call you weak. Those same hosts who call the life overrated because they have never slept wet in a frozen trench, they are the ones who will call you weak. Trust me. Breathing fresh, odorless air tastes sweeter than any patriotic slogan proclaimed in your honor. Because why should you even care about it if you will not even be here to hear it in the first place? Well, there you have it, guys. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you wish to support my work, there are links down below, for example my Patreon, where you can see these videos in early access and also see an additional chapter at the end. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.